Holy cow, you look skinny in the face.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh! How much did you lose?
90 pounds.
No.
Yeah.
there are adults who weigh 90 pounds.
Oh, I'm sure. Not, I'm not one of those.
Why the change?
Just making sure to be healthy too, right?
Mhm.
I was definitely not healthy, so I was focusing on that this year, so that was good.
Cool. Like, can you give some specifics? What have you done differently?
I'm eating better, and I walk about 60 minutes a day. I do Orange Theory twice a week now, but I only started that in June, and I stopped eating like processed foods and fast foods and things like that. So it really helped to um, get my body, working and using the right fuel, right? So that helped a lot. So my goal is actually to lose 100 pounds this year.
Mhm.
So I started that in January, and slowly, working on it every day, and you get there. So I'm 9/10 of the way to my goal, and I still have a couple more months left in the year, so I'm doing well.
That's fantastic.
All
Wow,
right, let's see.
wow. Because if someone you
Well,
said walk 50 minutes every day.
I walk an hour. Here, let me see if I've got a picture my wife sent me of.
Oh, you have to email it to me so I can share it on the website if that's okay.
I don't know. Okay, let me see if I
Well,
can
I can just
find
grab
it.
an old picture of you somewhere.
I'm sure you
you're
could.
you're big in the media, even just like your book cover picture.
All right, let me see if you can see this one. My son. I'm gonna try to get my son out of that one.
When was
That was
that?
that was Christmas 2008, 17. So last December.
No.
Yeah, that was like wake up. Just I think that was Christmas Day, right? So it looks like I just woke up.
Right.
But I think once you kind of see what the all the different things that you eat and what you do, and if you don't have your health, I think with regards to all the different things that you have, you don't really have much, right? Because you can't spend your wealth if you're dead. So
So was this just like a New Year's resolution, or did something happen?
no, it was just me. Like I don't know if you've ever done one of those life balance wheels.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I did the life balance wheel, and everything was like, family, my finances, all contribution, those were all good, except my health was like one or two. Right. And so when I looked at it, I was like, holy cow, man, I can't enjoy doing any of these other things because, my health is the way it is. Right. So I decided to make a big change, and I started running. I've been doing 5Ks the last month. I haven't been like super fast, but I mean, like I'm at like 36 minutes, which is good for me for 5K. And I did a couple of 10Ks, like an hour and 26 minutes. But I mean, I'm doing it, right. I'm getting out there, and I think I just set some goals with those two, so I'll work those down as well. But it's just working on it every day, and no matter what it is, right? Like real estate or health or whatever, as long as you're working on it a little bit every day, you'll be able to do it. So that's it. I applied the same principles to real estate as I did health goals,
Hmm.
right? And that's why I'm down 90 pounds, just a little bit every day, and follow some key rules, and then you're good.
I talk to people all the time. Losing weight is very popular subject.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that doesn't come up in your masterminds, or are you just completely real estate focused? Is it maybe that's why?
Well, I think that people's weights come up in different contexts, but the ones that I run are all real estate focused. But the ones that I participate in, yeah, it always comes up different things. Usually, health is a really important issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, I think that there's usually a couple of key areas that people are concerned about, right? It's usually health, wealth, and relationships are usually the three areas that people are most concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always trying to work on all of those and try to keep those, you know, at the forefront of yourself and trying to improve yourself, right?
Right, right. And then it's really comes down to the individual and what their priorities are. Like the example I often go to is like Gary V or Elon Musk. Like Elon Musk is a legit workaholic, so he never
Mhm.
sees his family. Gary V is a legit workaholic, and he only sees his kids for like half a day on a Sunday, right? So it does really depend on what your goals are, and then understand, like if family is valuable to you, then you have to design your life accordingly.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have to prioritize for sure. I'm headed out this weekend for my son's baseball tournament in Guelph, so we'll leave on Friday at 4, and then we'll be gone for the weekend for baseball, right?
Awesome. And it's
So
like a whole weekend thing?
yeah, he's playing. He plays rep baseball. He's on the 15U team, and so they play fall ball and then spring ball in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be taking some trips down there and doing that. Right?
Cool.
Yeah, it's he really enjoys the baseball stuff, and so it's good to encourage that for sure.
Would you have been able to do this in your previous life while you were a teacher?
Do you mean to do which?
To
To do
afford this? To to have this time?
I think it probably would have been tighter. Like I think I would have it would have been a lot more confusing, and we would probably have made it work anyways, right? Because you want the best for your kids. It would probably have been a little bit more challenging for sure. I wouldn't have the flexibility time wise to be able to do it. I think that is a definite thing, but also, I guess finance wise, elite baseball is probably like a $15,000 to $20,000 commitment, right? When it comes
A
to, and
year?
this year,
Oh, okay.
yeah, for
Not lifetime?
oh no, it's a year, and it that's with all the travel and hotels and like just even when you break a bat, right? A bat is like $100, and he's already gone through two bats. So and he's only played for like a month in fall ball, right? So um, I mean it adds up over time for sure.
That's
But
wow.
yeah, I mean you things you do for your kids,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
To
yeah.
make sure that they're having fun and also they're learning and they're gaining the teamwork aspect of things.
Uh-huh.
So it's pretty cool.
Is part of any of this cost and related to like some sort of specialized coaching or anything? And where my mind was going was in Kevin Hart's book, he says he'll pay like he won't spoil his kids with like toys and stuff, but he'll pay for like teaching and coaching. So for example, his daughter gets lessons from Beyonce, his son gets soccer lessons from David Beckham. Right? And those
Oh
things
yeah,
don't come cheap, but Kevin Hart makes money, so just like you
yeah.
do.
Well, you do want to make sure that they have the different programs, right? They have access to them. Like we've done different specialized batting practice for him and things like that. But I mean, he has to decide too what he wants to do and if he wants to do it, right?
Hmm.
There's also he's very like this is my older one. He's really sports oriented, so he's also on the school volleyball team. He's in high school, grade 9, right? So he's on the school volleyball team, and then you know, he's probably going to do other sports as well. He's in hockey right now. He's a goalie in hockey, so like keeps busy. So I mean, you try to help them to do what they enjoy, and and try to teach them lots of lessons along the way. So
Hmm.
it's good. My youngest one, he plays hockey and baseball as well, and so we're always kind of taking them to different places, and with different sports events and school events. But that's all part of the kids' experience, and I enjoy it. I like doing that sort of stuff. I enjoy being there and watching them play, and you know, uh, goalie is kind of stressful. Actually, I think that's more stressful watching them as a goalie than anything else, because it can be, it depends on how the team's playing, and that sort of thing. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's fun.
right. We're having
Yeah.
some
What
more
do
poor
you?
network connection, so let's just shoot this shit for a bit and wait this out. The Leafs are a great example. Often the goalie gets like, oh, your goalie's terrible. Like, yeah, we're leading the league in shots against. It's not all the goalie's fault.
No, no. But you know what? I can't wait to see Tavares. That'll be awesome, right?
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing him play for the Leafs this year. That'll be cool. I
yeah.
used to see him with the Oshawa Generals, right? So I usually go to the Oshawa Generals games, and get to see different players before they get into the majors, which is often fun, right?
Very cool.
So yeah, I enjoy that a lot.
Because what I want listeners to learn is like, what does life look like on the other side? Because people have goals of spending more time with family, right?
Mhm.
That's almost the number one thing where people for real estate investors, they want freedom of time, more time with family, and that's exactly what you've gotten.
Yeah, I think you can get it in different ways, and sometimes you have it and you don't even know about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you ever heard that story about the MBA guy from New York flies into Costa Rica, or like a little small little country, and meets a fisherman there, and he talks to the fisherman, and he's saying, he's the fisherman's taking him out, and he's collecting fish, and the MBA comes in and says, well, why don't you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Finish the story, so for the listeners
Yeah, yeah.
who haven't heard it.
So why don't you, like, get a fishing boat and get a couple of boats, and then you can build a fishing empire, and it's like, so why, for what, right? Well, so you can get more money, and because you have more money, you'll have more time, and then well, for what? Well, so that you can spend a little bit of time fishing, and then the rest of your day you can spend with your family, right? And so what does the guy do? He finishes fishing and he goes home, right? Because that's what he's going to do. He's going to spend the rest of the day with his family, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I think there, like, sometimes you don't even know what you have, and you have to, like, appreciate it for sure,
Right.
right? There's a lot out there, but I also think you should try to enjoy as much of what you do, when you do it. I enjoy the real estate investing side of things, right? I enjoy putting deals together, and building something out of nothing. So I enjoy it, and I know there are other people like
Mm-hmm,
that too, right?
mm-hmm.
There is lots of payoff from it, but there is all the different types of ways that you can generate income from it. But what's nice is that you do get time freedom, you do get location freedom if you set your business up correctly, and you do get financial freedom from real estate. But I think you have to know what your goals are when you start the business. It
Mm-hmm.
makes it a lot easier for you to figure out how to get there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people, when they get started, they hear from somebody, oh, you can make lots of money. Well, you can make lots of money doing a lot of different things, right? But what you need to try to figure out is what are your goals? Like, what's your long-term vision for all the things that you want to do, and set those goals. right? And then you can work backwards from it. It makes it a lot easier to work backwards to be able to achieve, those goals,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you get more time, what you find is that opportunities come to you. Like I find that I get new opportunities that come to me all the time. So whether it's new business ventures, I've invested in businesses, private equity, I've done lending, I've done lots of different things. And a lot of those opportunities come because I have the time flexibility to do that, right?
Right.
And I think the other thing is to, your reputation precedes you, right? Like people know who you are, and
Mm-hmm.
I've heard some awful like stories of different things, and you know what? The thing is that your reputation follows you around. There was funny. I talked to lots of different people. I talked to a real estate investor recently, and she was presenting a building, right, that she was looking for joint venture partners in. She went to different real estate groups and she was presenting this. Well, one of the groups that she presented in, the people who ran the group, they bought that building out from under her, before she could close on the building herself. So she presented it,
Oh, I
but
think I
she,
know this one story.
oh, do you?
Yeah, I think I know it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like your reputation precedes you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You
And see
know,
how funny the smallest community is? The story that you're talking about, you didn't tell me. I heard it from someone else.
yeah, but you're absolutely right, and that's why you have to be careful,
Yeah,
because what's going to happen is that now people are going to be afraid to speak or share something because you're going to take it away from them,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you can't build trust like that. It's very much like if I tell you, Erwin, I'm going to be here at 2:30, I'm going to be here at 2:30. I'm going to do what I have to do to be here at 2:30, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's you trust me to be here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with whatever we do. Like when you share something with somebody, you expect them to trust that you're going to hold on to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the moment you don't, everything starts to fall apart, right? People won't trust you. People will be scared.
Yeah,
People will know that all you care about is money,
yeah, yeah,
right? And that's not what this business is built on. It's a people business. It's
yeah,
not a house business,
yeah,
right? So it's people like your name, like you, this example, it gets around really fast, right?
yeah.
Right? So be careful.
Because if you're not careful, so I think first of all, you should be a good person. If you be a
Yeah,
good person, you can avoid all these issues.
that's right.
If you're not though, and these are your business practices, people find out. So you're constantly having to go outside your community to find business.
Yeah.
That can work, to start going out of country where people don't know you.
Makes it harder, that's for sure.
Yeah, a lot harder, a lot more expensive. So,
Yeah,
Quentin,
sure.
I want the question that comes to my head is because you're a wealth of knowledge, right? I was actually talking. I was interviewing Doug and Anna from KWC, so they go to your event as well. Like they're from Cambridge. They go all the way to Durham, right?
I get people from like Windsor coming, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
So we were discussing about how formal education system. There's nothing really around entrepreneurship, and especially not real estate. And then we're just shooting the shit, and I said, instead of paying 10 grand for university, maybe I could hire Quentin to coach my kid.
Yeah, do you know what I'm doing is I'm getting my son to help me at the Durham REI.
Yeah. Oh,
So
good.
yeah, so he's 14, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting him to help me, and that's just a good way to get them to absorb some of the stuff that's going on, different ideas, and I think that's a good way of doing it. And I don't know, like I also try to, when I have the opportunity, I listen to podcasts
Mm-hmm.
and let my kids listen to it, listen to books, let my kids listen to it, and they absorb stuff, right? They're good. You give them little bits of advice, right? And you're not trying to be too pushy, but like, take action. Like it's okay to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Encourage them to make mistakes because the system, the formal education system, doesn't do that. They
Mm-hmm.
they mark them with A, B, C, D, E, right? But
Mm-hmm.
truly we want our kids to make mistakes. We,
Hmm.
you know, we want them to be able to fall a little bit so that they can succeed, right? Because like the real world is different, right? Like like yeah, like the whole trust thing, right? Like you learn all of this stuff as you go along. So that person or those people will learn from that and they'll do it differently the next time, well, hopefully. Right? So all of that stuff. Anyways, I agree that the formal system is definitely needs some changing, and I think there are good people in the system that can help. But I think that there's too much. It's become so political. Everything is political, and that's too bad because there are some people who can really help your kids learn. So it's good. It's good to get them to expose to a whole bunch of different things,
Hmm.
right? Like, yeah, I saw you fishing with them not too long ago, right?
Yeah, because I
How
wanted.
was that?
It's great. It was like less than 20 minutes because that's all they can pay attention for, right? But like I want to teach them because I had a friend reach out to me saying uh, she had a good laugh because her kids who are not young, between like 10 and 16, three of them, right? They asked her, like, "Mom, is this chicken like what we're eating? Is the chicken that we're buying at the grocery? Is that the same chicken on the farm?" They didn't know. They didn't know they were. They didn't know that it was the same thing,
Right, right,
right?
yeah, farm to table type of thing, right?
Yeah, they don't realize it's that the chicken that they saw at the farm is the chicken that's in the styrofoam container that's shrink wrapped that they're eating, right?
Right.
Versus I want my kids to understand where food comes from and have respect for it, right? Like even though we caught the fish, even though it's a lower life on the food chain than us, like we still treat it with respect, right? And hook it, I throw it back in. We're not playing with it, nothing. But yeah, it's trying to teach
Yeah,
my kids respect for life and animals and where food comes from.
yeah, not being wasteful and
Yeah.
being appreciative for sure. I think that's all good things that we want to do for our kids, right?
Hmm.
We always want the best for them, and we want them to be able to improve and learn
Hmm.
and make those connections, right?
Right.
So no, that's cool.
And I take my kids. So I usually take my oldest because my son's too young, so he needs to go to bed often before I can do these things. But I've taken my daughter for like lease signings,
Hmm.
tenant move-ins. Uh, but that's about it because everything else is delegated and outsourced, right? You ever take your kids to like when you're doing deals or like
Yeah,
show them your house that you're building or
yeah. Actually, you know what? I've had even my youngest son. He's really like I brought him to like a project, a flip project, and he helped. He was actually cleaning out a fridge or something like that. Yeah, he was cleaning out the fridge. I was like, here, just get this done. And he's like, okay, and he got it all done, and
right?
he did a great job. And I think it's always good to have them to see what it is that you're doing, right? I've had them come out to different projects and see the progress, and
Yeah, yeah,
occasionally they see the beginning, but most of the time they see the end.
right,
When it's not as dirty and as grungy.
right, right.
Like the last project I've been working on, it was like the people who I bought it from had been smoking in the house for 25 years, right? So like you could see the nicotine on the walls. When you see when it looks like there's wallpaper, but it's really the nicotine on that's adhering to the wall where the studs are, and then you have the insulation. So, but it looks like it's wallpaper, right? But it's really just the nicotine stains. So, I mean, like that was like a project that I was working on. I wouldn't necessarily bring my kids through that one, but I mean, they'll come through the end project and they'll see what it looks like at the end,
Right.
anyways, right? And so, those are the great projects for me. I like to see the progress and taking something that nobody would really want to walk through to something that's that looks really good, right? So
That's cool. I actually like your how you had your kid clean out the fridge, right? Did you pay him for it?
no, he just asked for what he could do to help,
Oh, good
right?
kid, good kid.
Yeah,
I'd almost
yeah, he's
I'd almost be the point to pay for them for it, and then I show them how the money worked on the deal. You made this making a wage for cleaning the fridge versus the investor who, takes takes almost all the risk and makes this. What would you rather be? When they're old enough to understand those things.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good lessons by starting their own little business too, right? Like whether it's a lemonade stand or, mowing lawns, whatever it is, there's always those lessons. I think that's definitely a good thing to do for sure. I've often, told them about, do you want to run the business or do you want to work in a business, right? So the difference is, getting paid hourly or having other people work for you, right? And so, we talk a little bit about that, and I think they're starting to get different sorts of ideas. I didn't have those same sort of opportunities when I was a kid, right? So it's nice to be able to kind of share those, different types of lessons that I've learned over time and share that with them.
Right.
So it's pretty cool. It's good, right? And we always continue to build. Like we always want to continue to build what we're doing, and trying to hedge our bets and grow and do different things, right? So I always try to do something like a challenge every quarter that kind of takes me out of my comfort zone, right? So.
Okay.
So it's just one of the things I do, right? So So the first quarter this year was to lose 25 pounds, right? Because that was huge. So that was a big challenge for me to start changing things, right? To do that, and actually the first quarter, I think I was down like 30 pounds, which was really good. So you just kind of set your goals and you keep working on it, right? And build. And I started investing in the US as one of my breakthrough challenges, right? Like,
what's that like?
Quint,
sorry, finish your thought.
Yeah, you know what? It's what it is just getting outside of your comfort zone, looking at what you do, and then continue to grow, right? I had a coaching client who had to fire a contractor, and he's only at the beginning of his renovation, and I'm basically
I know the guy. I think I talked to him before this call.
Probably.
So listeners, understand this world is very small. You don't Quentin and I live like an hour and a half apart from each other, and this world is very small. So word spreads quickly. Protect your reputation.
You do. You got to. I swear, because like that's what it is, right? And so so I'm telling him, dude, you got to fire this guy. You got to fire him. Yeah. And then he texted me earlier I fired him. I'm like, good for you, man. How did it feel? He said, I felt great. I felt relieved. Right. And that's him achieving that, breaking through his comfort zone and doing something that he's not used to doing in order to grow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that, if we all did that a little bit more, I think we would see so much more improvement in our lives. So many more, new things that we didn't think we could do done. Right. So, I mean, and that's, whatever it is, whether it's losing 25 pounds in 3 months, or if it's investing in the US or picking up a new property and, trying to reposition it so that it cash flows well, there's a lot that's out there opportunity wise, and it's waiting for people to go out and grab it, but they have to become uncomfortable to get comfortable.
Right.
Right.
So for anyone who wants to go far, you just have to. It's going to be a constant battle of being uncomfortable. Right. Like when you're in Orange, or when you're at Orange Theory, is it ever comfortable?
Oh no, and they're always yelling at you too.
See?
Keep going, keep going. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, but I'm working towards I want to do a 10K run. My next breakthrough challenge for the quarter is to do a 10K run. If I can do it, sign up for a race and get my butt out there and run. So, like to me, I've never like I before Orange Theory, I have never been in a fitness class before. Like I had never attended a fitness class. So, like I went to one. Oh no, that's not true. I went to one uh, um, CrossFit class.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
I went to one cross, and that was it. But I mean, like I signed up. I've been going since June. That's been good. I've been consistent with the walking. I've been consistent with the eating, just making little changes, and that's improved. But breakthrough challenge, man, 10K run. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna get it done. So I don't know when, but if it's December and I'm running with a parka, or I don't know if you do races in December. I have no
Not
clue.
locally.
Okay. All right.
There will be like an organized race, I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sign up for an organized race, so it's gonna be sooner than later. I take it.
Let me know if you do one locally. Maybe I'll do it with you.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't like running, so. But what you're talking about is better than like Tough Mudder. That's 10 miles. That's insane.
Okay.
Any lessons from US investing that you like to share, or is it too early?
Well, I've got lots of lessons.
Okay.
I've been working on it for a while, probably about a year, and it's cost, I would say, at least $20,000 so far in just legal and accounting fees and getting things going. So the initial cost has been, up there, but I'm also structuring it in a way with a limited partnership where I have investors that can come in and invest with me, and then go down there and buy a portfolio of properties in a limited partnership. So that's why it costs as much as it costs to get going. But I don't know. The way that I see things is I like to create multiple streams of income. And my thought for investing in the US was, I understand real estate investing. It's a different market, and it offers me a hedge against the Ontario and Canadian economy. So I'll still have income coming in from my Canadian portfolio, but I'll also have this hedge. So if the U.S. economy is going really well, I'm still getting the income that's coming from that, and I get it in U.S. dollars, which is really cool. Like one of the things
Yeah,
that
income in US dollars is always good.
yeah, because what do you do when you go on vacation? You convert it to US dollars,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So what I like about the way that I've structured this is that I get paid in US dollars, and I pay my limited partners in US dollars. So I give them a preferred return and an equity stake, and then I get myself US dollars, because one of the things that I want to do is be able to travel to different places, and go for at least a month every year to different places and travel. And to use US dollars is a no-brainer, right? Like I'm headed to the Turks and Caicos in a month and a half, and what do we have to do? US dollars for our accommodation, and also like flights, all of that stuff. So it was kind of interesting to start thinking about this in a different way. So I actually classified my U.S. Real estate portfolio as a different stream of income than the real estate that I have in Canada. So I usually consider my income from my portfolio as one stream of income, right? So my portfolio generates income. That's one stream. The U.S. I'm considering another stream, right? And then if I have my private equity, the coaching that I do, like those are other different streams of income that I have. Flips that I do, those are other streams of income. Some are more active than others, right? So it just depends on what's going on. But the U.S. stuff is, I'm really excited by it. Like it's going to be like everything I do. I'll take on partners at the beginning, and then they'll probably continue to invest, and I'll continue to grow that side of the business, like
Very
I've done with
cool.
Yeah, like I've done with my Ontario stuff, right?
Very cool. Are you
Yeah,
doing
same partners.
are you
So
doing the same thing in Ontario with an LP?
no, I'm not. I do it with joint venture partners,
Yeah.
just regular joint venture partnerships. So I take on partners 50-50. We do like a buy, fix, refinance, and rent strategy. Still
Right.
do it.
Right.
Some properties I'll flip, but I'll still do the partnership side of things.
Right.
So, I look for people who are interested in putting down the down payment money and also financing,
Right.
right? And then they get the added benefit of the refi after I take a property that needs work, right? So I typically do a lot of off market deals. So I would say 70 to 80% of our purchases are off market. And then the occasional purchase that I purchase MLS, it still requires a lot of work, and I'm usually the only person that's putting an offer on the property, anyways, which you would think is doesn't happen that often in the GTA, but you'd be surprised depending on the quality of the product that you're trying to purchase.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh,
And so,
back to the nicotine house. Was that a private purchase? And also, I
yes, it
wanted to
was.
ask, how did you deal with the nicotine? You just re-drywall it?
Uh, that's funny. That is what everybody who came in said too, right? And I think that the thing is that like I've probably renovated 50 to 70 houses, I think, and I can usually figure out the best way to and cost efficient way of doing it. So what we did was we used Kim's oil-based product that locks in the odor and the color, and then we had to do that. Actually, we had to put a couple layers of the kilns on there, and then we were able to paint over it, and it looks like brand
Right,
new.
right.
No smell. It is really awesome, the turnaround on that. We also had to scrub down the walls with TSP first, right? Just to get the initial coloring down. But it's it's worked out. It worked out really well. And then for the cost, like it didn't cost that much to get done. It really, most people would have walked in and said, "Oh my, I have to change all the drywall. I have to change out all the windows,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I didn't have to do any of that. It's gonna work out really well. I'll do really well on that property.
The coaching client of yours that you mentioned, they were having issues with their general contractor, and
Yes, sir.
you've renovated 50 to 70 houses.
Yeah.
How about some advice on contractors, and you general contract yourself, right?
So at the beginning, when I was working full time, I could not do that. So I
Mm-hmm.
would hire a general contractor, right? But I would still have um, somebody go by the house once every day, sometimes once every couple of days, to have a look at the property, send me pictures to make sure that, because I was too busy, I wasn't able to get in there and take a look at the what was going on. And same, actually, I use the same process in the U.S. So I'm actually renovating a property in the U.S. as we speak. I've got a renovation going where we're converting a sunroom at the front of a property into a bedroom, renovating the kitchen, and redoing the roof. And I'm getting pictures of the property sent to me as the every couple of days to ensure that the renovations are proceeding where I want them to do. So I'm actually doing the same thing as I used to do down in the U.S., which is pretty cool. With regards to whether you decide to general contract or not, I think it depends on your personality too. Like some people. If you're only going to do one or two projects, it's probably best to hire a general contractor to kind of help you to go through that. But if you're going to make a business out of this, and you're the way that you're doing things is you're going to let's say you're going to have a flipping business, you have to understand the role of what a general contractor does. So I would suggest that you actually project manage a few projects before you give that away to somebody
Right,
else,
right.
right? and then that way you understand what the demands are, what what's going on, how to manage people, and how to fire them. I fired people on the spot. Get your tools and get out, right? And some people think that's too hard, but they've never probably had that issue before, or the issue they have is they well, are you coming to the job site? When are you coming to the job site? Like, are you going to finish that, right? And that's what happens if you're not somebody who can take your project in hand and manage it, right? And you don't want to be chasing people, right? You want the people who I've had some of my trades work for me for 10 years because they do what they say they're going to do. They do it on time, and I pay them right away. So they're very happy to work for me. And as long as I can get that from the people that work for me, I'll give them work like, they can do 4 or 5 projects a year with me if they want, right? So, it depends on, what the end goal of that person is, So if they're coming in, probably general contractor. If they're trying to make it into a business, they need to have that experience as a project manager. They don't necessarily have to have the construction experience, but they do need to be able to manage the people and the trades and the workflow, right? And that, the only way to do that is to gain experience doing it, actually get out there and do it. Right. You can't learn it from a book. You can't, you can come to somebody's job site and learn it. Like my coaching clients, they'll come and they'll see the process and they can see what's going on, but it's not, you got to do it still. Like, right. Well, that guy that we were talking about, he had to fire that guy. Like, he had to fire him. He knows he had to do it. I told him, you're going to have to do it. He did it. And now, the next time around, he'll have learned from that. I think it's important that we always look at obstacles as opportunities, right? Because that way we can see something and we can see, okay, what did I learn from that? How can I do it better next time? And perhaps what that will allow him to do is to scale his renovations more now, because he's seen something that didn't work, and now he's going to see something more into the contractors that he's going to work with in the future, right?
Yeah, I think I could be right. I could be wrong. I think the problem with contractors, say a tiler or a drywall or whatever it is, I think the problem is not necessarily, well, it's partly them. The other part of the problem is the investor can come from an office environment, a teaching environment, where you ask someone to do something, especially if it's a work thing, they do it. With contractors, it isn't always that way.
Yeah.
They don't show.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with how you set your expectations, right? Like if your expectation is that you allow your contractor to drink on the job, then you're going to end up with a funky looking wall, right? Like, if you don't set those expectations up, then you're going to end up with, and I think that's part of it too. Like, right. People don't. It's the same with tenants, right? You set expectations with tenants. It's the same with your joint venture partners. You set expectations. You do the same thing with contractors, right? And so that's all that you're really doing is you learn how to help others to understand what your expectations are of them. Right? And if you can't do it clearly, write it down and give it to them. Put it on a sheet of paper. My expectation is that you don't smoke inside the house when you're doing renovations. My expectation is that you're not drinking on the job. My expectation that is if you're not going to be able to make the job site at 9 a.m. the day of you're supposed to start, you're going to text me the night before, right? Or, before you, like an hour before you're supposed to show up, whatever it is, right? Set your expectations with them. You can list that as part of your scope of work. So you give them a scope of work, and then you give them your list of expectations, right?
And for anyone who has to do a test, like manage a small project, start with like a bathroom or a kitchen. Don't go full bore, like full basement, a legal basement with a kitchen and bathroom and new HVAC system, or removing the HVAC and waterproofing and whatever else you're gonna do. New window.
Yeah,
egress installation.
you know what you need to do is you have a general contractor, but you shadow them the whole time, right? You tell them, look, I'm going to shadow you while you go through this process, and you show up on site, and you look at what's going on, right? And sometimes you might annoy them, but that's okay. Right? You'll learn the process if that's what you want to do, and yeah, definitely start off something small too, right?
Yeah. And if you're going to shadow someone, you can always do what you can to provide value, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like buy
Bring
people
coffee.
lunch. Yeah, bring coffee. Bring donuts.
Whatever it is.
Buy the GC lunch, right?
And then ask lots of questions.
Quentin, running out of time. So, can you provide some advice on how to do private deals for those looking?
Well, there's lots of ways to do private deals. I think the challenge is that most people take the easy way of doing things, which is usually the MLS, right? So they'll have the MLS feed, but the thing is that everybody's doing that, right? So what I would suggest is you don't just do MLS, that you go out there and you actually talk to people about what you're doing. And you ask them, if you know somebody that's interested in, selling their property, let them know that I'm buying properties, right? You have to. It's just like everything, If people don't know what you're doing, then how are they going to know to refer you, right? So you have to get out there and you have to let people know that you're buying properties. Easy way to do it is go and phone all the We Buy Houses signs that you see. Like easy, quick way of talking to other investors and say, look, if you find something and you don't have enough time to do it, then give me a call. I'll pay you an assignment fee as long as the number works, and I'll buy that from you.
Right. So pay a wholesaler then.
Sure, if that's what works.
Yeah.
Like if they want to, if they have something that if you can't dig up the deal, if you're not going to do the work, you either do it. There's two ways to do it. Either you pay for it, or you pay for it in time, right? So you have to take the time to do it, or you have to pay for it, right? And so paying for it is paying through a wholesaler. Paying for it could also be like paying for advertising. Maybe you do like Facebook or Google advertising. Maybe you do like signs, whatever it is that gets your name out there, right? So that people know that you're out there looking for deals and making them happen. There's lots of reasons why people will sell a property, and they won't sell it to. I'm not a realtor. I'm not a mortgage broker or anything like that. So that actually is something that I leverage to benefit, right? So I'll say, look, I'm not a realtor. We're not going to pay any realtor fees. What I can do is I can close a property quickly. What do you need? Right. And so sometimes they'll need is me not to, like the house the smoking house was also, I would say, they had a bit of a hoarding problem as well. Right. And they didn't want people in the house. Right. So for me, what I said was, look, I will buy the house as is. You can leave whatever you want in there and I will take care of it for you. So you don't have to worry about it. What else do you want? Well, I don't want people to come into the property while we're living here. Wait till you can bring your.
Nobody wants to, anyways.
Yeah, you can, but they didn't want anybody to come in, right? And so that's what I said. Okay, no problem. We won't do that. We'll wait till August 1st, and then once you've moved a majority of your stuff out, that's when we'll do all the other pieces, right? Like you help them in ways that you can help them that other people wouldn't necessarily be able to help them, right? And in return, what you're asking for is a specific price. So you're helping them to do what they want to do, and you need to get a certain price to make that happen. That will work for you, and that's all you're doing, right? So and I think it works really well. Like if you can find the house that makes sense, like everybody else has to, like if someone else were to buy that house, I guarantee they would pull down all the drywall and they would have probably replaced all the windows, right? because they just don't have the experience to understand that, and they would have had to spend that money to be able to do it, right? But that's because they just don't know, and then somebody would advise them. Especially they'll bring a contractor in who, like you can't ask like I said this before, you can't ask a car salesman whether you should buy a car or not. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so you have to gain experience and knowledge, and by talking to other investors and figuring out, this is the way to do it, not this. Okay, you take people's advice, and you listen to their opinions, but you do you do what you believe is right, and then sometimes there'll be a mistake. But you know what? I would hazard to guess you'll be okay 90% of the time. Right. As long as you've taken other opinions and you've learned, and then you go and you apply, right?
Quick story about your car, real estate experience. Sorry, real estate world example of your car salesman example. So I had a client who had water in her basement, just a small amount, but there's water in the basement, right? And then she had so then she called contractors, got a waterproofing quote for like $20,000-$40,000, whatever it was. And I said, and then I forget. My advice was, okay, if you're going to spend that, at least get a home inspector to look at that house again, right? So I'm not sure what she did from there, but what the problem was the that line, the pump on your furnace for the air conditioner, for the condenser, it was blocked. There was a kink in it, and so water was coming out of the pump. So it's a piece of hose that needs to be corrected, plus labor. We're talking like $100, no more than that for a fix. Versus the waterproofing guy said, "Oh yeah, $20,000, $40,000. We'll waterproof these 4 walls, and it wouldn't have solved the problem."
No, it wouldn't have solved the problem. No, you know what? I honestly, I see it all the time. I hear it all the time, and I hear it from real estate investors all the time, actually. Right? So you definitely have to watch out for contractors, and whenever somebody's whenever somebody's deriving income from something that you're doing, you have to ask yourself a question. So what is is this really the best, decision to make?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can I get somebody who's objective, opinion on this, right? Mm-hmm. And the objective person also has to be the person who has got to where you want to go, right? It can't just be like your Uncle Phil, right? I don't have an Uncle Phil, but like it can't be your Uncle Phil, right? It's got to be like the person. Like if you're looking to achieve like an X amount of real estate portfolio, okay, a $10 million portfolio. Go ask somebody's opinion that has a $10 million portfolio. Don't ask the person who's selling you the property, right? Like you gotta think a little differently. And I think that's where a lot of people get into trouble, right? I have a quick story. I have a new coaching client, and she had a realtor. And I don't hate realtors, right?
That's
don't.
Okay. I don't like a lot of them. That's been no secret on this podcast.
But like this realtor told her that she should stucco the front of a house, okay, right? And she should do all these renovations, and she's going to make $50,000 to $100,000 by flipping the house.
Okay.
Well, I mean, what ends up happening is she does all the work and she gets the work done, and she is going to probably lose $30,000 on the house. Okay. And like, you know what, like that sort of stuff it just makes you sick. Right. And I think the challenge is that she also needs somebody else in her circle of influence who can give her the experience and not depend on somebody who's selling you something right?
And I may not have the experience to.
I may not have the experience. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that we have to look at who our mentors are, and we should all make sure that we're all pushing ourselves. And not everybody who has money can, like, a lot of money. Like I've met. I was I attended a Tiger 21 meeting, and there's you meet really interesting people in that type of group. Some that have hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. So sorry, just explain to the listener what Tiger 21 is, in case they don't know.
So it would be considered like a mastermind group. I suggest that if you get to a point where you have at least $10 million of net worth and you're no longer an active investor, that you join a group like Tiger 21. Right. So in that group, you get to meet lots of different people. And there are some people in that group who have a lot of money that I would never want to replicate. I would never want to make the same decisions they made. And others that I think they are the type of people that I would want to replicate the type of decisions they make. That's the type of person that you want to find as a mentor. I'm actually part of the Entrepreneurs Organization, and I love that group. I get to interact with other entrepreneurs who work in different businesses who are very successful, and they just they're just great people to bounce your ideas off of, right? And but I think like the Tiger 21, there are people that you want to have as mentors in that group, and the people that you don't want to replicate what they're doing. And so what you need to do is find those places where you can find these people, and then find the specific, person or persons that can help you to get where you want to go. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you're part of like different mastermind groups and stuff like that. I know you're part of different mastermind groups, right?
With Michelle, Ryan Carr, Luke Wyrot, all them, yeah.
Yeah. So like, if you find that there is one person in that group that you would like to be more like, or has succeeded in an area that you want to succeed in, then they can act as a mentor to you, mm-hmm. right? Or also that you could be in a paid mentorship group, right? Mm-hmm. I know you mentioned a marketing group, right? So like, that's the same thing. You might find in that group that there are a couple of people who, push you and make you think differently, and will take you where you want to see yourself go, right? And then you need to spend the time with those people, and you got to treat them like gold that they are, right? Because if you don't, and you just treat them like you're helping me, wow, like I'm paying you, so you got to help me. That's not the right approach, right? So, and I think that there are lots. I think we live in a world now where we have lots of opportunities where we can meet these type of people, and more than I think ever before in history. I think it's so easy to connect with them and find those authentic people. So I think we should make an effort, to go out and find them and find those mentors and keep them and cherish them as part of your life, right? Mm-hmm. So.
Very cool,
anyway,
Quentin.
All right, I'm going off again. Sorry.
No, it's good. I'm actually regretting we don't have enough time. Do you have 5 more minutes? I have 2 more questions for you I have to ask.
Sure.
Okay, one of them is you mentioned earlier you have to figure out a price that works for you. That's actually a really difficult thing to think of for many people. Novice investors, even veterans. Like, what is that price that works for you?
A price in what way?
When you were talking about like the nicotine house, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you two, between you and the seller, you had to figure out, you needed a price that worked for you and a price that worked for them, right? Any guidelines on what that price is?
You know what? It depends on the person, right? Like, so you ask them, what do they want?
Yeah.
Right. And then you figure out backwards from what it's going to cost you to renovate it to, what it is that you can, what makes sense for you to buy, right? Mm-hmm. There's lots of apps out there. Thank God that, Treb is, losing this fight for access to information so that we at least we can be somewhat like, come on, free the information, people. you know, like there are apps out there that can help people to find out comps really quick, like House Sigma. I don't know if you've heard of that one, but it's an app that allows you to do a quick quickly get comps in an area, and you don't have to ask the realtor who to pull that down for you, right? You can use like the just sold listings, right, to get a specific area in the GTA, anyways, like all the solds that are coming out. Like there are lots of places to get information now, and I'm glad because we're so far behind the U.S. when it comes to access to information. It's because these groups have kind of, and I mentioned that before, and then all of a sudden I had all these realtors kind of like close in on me and like,
and financial advisors hate you too.
It's good. Yeah, you saw that. Yeah, I know. It's okay. I speak my mind, and some people will like it, and some people won't like it. That's okay. Yeah. But you know what? I'm glad that we're doing this. I think it will help everybody to feel a little bit more comfortable when they're talking to their realtor anyways, because they can go and look and say, okay, well, this is what I think. What do you think? And you're the expert now, right? Yeah. Well, I can take this, because if you're truly the expert, you can, anybody shows you a comp, you can say, well, this, I've been in that house, and this is what the difference is, and this is what your house is like, so I think we should do this, right? Really? And I think that's what makes being able to access that type of information is helpful to realtors, right, not hurtful, right? So, anyways,
I don't mean to pry. What do you think the savings were on the nicotine house, as an example, by going private versus if it was listed on MLS? Actually, I don't even know if anyone would buy it on MLS, because I don't even know if someone could get financing for that.
No, that's the challenge, right? Like, let me give you another example of a house I bought on the MLS. Sure. Okay, so I bought a house on the MLS last I bought it in November, actually. I bought it for $300,000. Okay, it was an MLS purchase. There was like cat pee smell everywhere. There was holes in the roof. I would never get financing for that. Okay, I bought it for $300,000. I put $115,000 into it. Okay, and I refinanced it for $620,000. Okay, so like it all depends. Like there's no like. So what is the spread on that? Right, like.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's an MLS property that everybody had access to. It was actually on the MLS for like 20 days and nobody put an offer on it, right?
Because people can't get financing. And so many investors, like if you're an investor, it doesn't matter what it looks like or smells like. Just compensate the price and then make it work.
Yeah, that's right. And that's exactly what I did for the nicotine house. Yeah. That property, it was actually listed, I think that property was listed for $350, and I bought it for $300. So like it all depends on the what makes sense for you. Like for me, that's what made sense to take on the trouble, mm-hmm, right? Because that's a lot of trouble. The nicotine house, I mean, for me, I wouldn't have necessarily been able to tell until I got in there and started to scrub the walls whether we could do this or not. So I am taking some risk on that, right? Right. But I believe that I could do it, which saved me like $25,000 probably.
Right. And did you use like a power sprayer, or did you roll it on the kills and the paint?
No, I had some guys come in and they scrubbed the walls first. Yeah. And then my painter came in and he rolled it.
Rolled it, okay.
Yeah, he rolled it. But it's oil-based kilns, right? You can't get it as easily as you can the other type of kilns, which is more common. Oil-based really adheres better, I find, and it keeps the smell down. And but I think they're trying to get rid of the oil-based kilns products. So
interesting. Yeah, oil-based isn't as popular as latex, but these are golden tips for the listeners in case you didn't realize.
I don't know. I just do what I do. I mean, I don't think I'm that special. I just kind of get my stuff done and I move on, right? Like
So Quentin, this is a problem with not having prepared question, because the prepared question in my head was what happened with the house that burnt down. But we're out of time.
Uh,
How's that for a cliffhanger? To be
yeah,
continued.
I guess we'll have to do it another time then. That's hilarious.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'd love to rebook you back to have you talk about that and the rebuilding process. But yeah, how's that for to be continued, folks?
We'll talk about that and modular building and all of that some other time.
Yeah, I'd love
Sounds
to hear more about it because that's a fascinating subject. Because like we talk about general contracting, the difficulty of it. Imagine a whole house, and that versus just buying a modular home, and then like foundation in a day or two, and
yeah,
house
well,
in a week.
yeah. I think that's the future of construction for sure. So let's let's book another call and we'll talk about that and we'll get that going. How's
Awesome.
that?
Awesome. Sounds good. Hey, anything to promote? Durham REI? You still offering
Sure.
coaching? I don't
Come
know.
out to I don't have any more room for one-on-one coaching. I have like one spot right now for group coaching because I try to kind of limit it. But yeah, Durham REI, people can always come out and see me there. I don't go to other places. I've been invited to Ottawa and to Alberta, and I'm not doing that. It doesn't make sense. I want to spend time with my family and friends, and I want to travel on my own terms and do my own stuff. So I only kind of like, I mean, coming on the podcast is traveling for me. It's virtual traveling.
You are in your home, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. My library of books behind me.
It's an impressive collection of books. In the website, where can people look up Durham REI in your group coaching?
Durham, www.durhamrei.com.
Quentin, thank you so much. I know how much you value your time, and I value your time. So,
Thank you, man. It was fun.
all right. Hope you. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
All right, take care.
All right.
We'll
Have a good
talk
day.
soon. Okay, bye bye.
Bye bye.